What's going on, guys? If you follow the channel, you'll know that I just picked up this 1990 Miata NA, and I thought it would be kind of cool to see what 30 years of Miata has done to the Miata with this 2020 Miata. Both the cars are the right color, they both have the right amount of pedals, so I thought it'd be really interesting to go out, drive the old one, the original that everybody knows and loves, and compare it to where they are now. You know, the cars are about 200 pounds heavier than these older cars, but these original cars are about 115, 116 horsepower versus these newest ND2s with the 2-liter that's making 181 horsepower. Now, this specific ND is the RF version for retractable fastback, and honestly, it's my favorite version. It just has such a cool look with the top up, with the fastback, and with the top down, you get that old Porsche Targa looking appearance with just that center section removed. Now, of course, they've went up in price a little bit. You know, this original 1990 Miata was around $14,000 for the window sticker. And if you take into account inflation, if we make this into 2020 pricing to compare with this 2020 model year, this is about a $27,000 car. Now, this RF, on the other hand, the window sticker is about $35,000. And of course, it does come with a lot more modern safety features, convenience features, heated seats, infotainment, all of that stuff that you expect in a modern car. But they're a little bit more pricey than they used to be. Now, in late 2018 is when the NDs went from the ND1 to the ND2 and went from the 155 horsepower 1.5 liter to the 2-liter, making again that 181 horsepower. So that little bit of weight disadvantage that you're getting with the modern car is surely going to be made accountable for with the higher horsepower. So let's go out, take the old one on a drive, see how it feels, how it shifts, and compare it to what you can get if you go and buy a brand new one off the lot. So before we drive it, let's do a quick look through on some of the features or lack thereof features in the 90 versus the 2020. So we've got steering wheel, we've got a horn, you've got turn signals, lights, wipers, of course. You've got your HVAC controls, which are very simple but easy to use. This car does have a CD player and a tape player. You've got that shifter, which is in a really nice, easy to use space. And that's about it. You do have a decent sized glove box in a original NA Miata, but that's about all you've got going for you. This car being an early car without the power window option, which would be here in the center console, you've got your crank windows. So let's jump into the 2020 and see how it's changed. So now we're in the much nicer, newer, more comfortable 2020. We've of course got leather seating, heated seats, but we still have all of that stuff that kind of makes it an original Miata. We've got nice, easy to use climate controls, even though these are now auto climate. We've got the steering wheel, we've got the wipers, everything's still in its original place, and not much other fluff that you wouldn't want in a small driver's car. We do have the big infotainment screen that you can go through, control all of your media, navigation, all that stuff that they have to put in a modern vehicle. But it just doesn't have any of that extra stuff that you wouldn't want. And one of the coolest party tricks, at least of the RF Miata, is this little button down here. When you hit that, the top, with no other effort, goes down by itself, fully locks and stows itself. The shifter, the parking brake is all still really nice ergonomics like it was originally. So let's take these out on a drive and see how they feel. So we are out in the NA first gen original Miata, and you're not greeted with a lot of creature comforts, but we've got to take into account, this car is 30 years old. We do have air conditioning. We do have power steering. We've got a radio, CD player, tape player. This specific car does not have power windows. It does just have crank windows. And size-wise, I am about 6'3"-ish. And honestly, I don't fit in this too badly. I've got adequate knee room, leg room. I do have the seat all the way back and all the way reclined for as much possible room as I can have. Now my head, if I do sit up all the way, my head is definitely touching the top, but it isn't horribly uncomfortable. Now I don't have any cool screens or any infotainment other than the radio that we talked about, but in a small little lightweight car from 30 years ago, you wouldn't expect anything like that. One thing that really stands out whenever I drive this is the transmission. The short throw, the notchiness, it feels really, really, really good. It's super nice. It's right where it needs to be. It's nice and low, and it works really, really well. So I'll be really interested to see if Mazda has carried that 30 years into the future with that ND transmission. We'll do a little acceleration here. And once you have it up in the RPM band, that's when it really starts to move. But with only 115, 116 horsepower on these early NA Miatas, it's about what you'd expect. And now with the newest ND Miatas making 181 horsepower, it'll be interesting to see, does it move that much better, even though they do have a little bit of a weight penalty or not. Now we don't have a lot of twisty roads here in the Wichita area, but we do have a few. So we'll run this down at a decent speed and see how it feels on this mildly twisty road. Steering feels great. One thing you do notice though, these early Miatas have a lot of body roll. As you pitch it into the corner, you feel the back of the car pick up, and it does have a lot of roll. So we're gonna get back to the new 2020 Miata, jump in it, take it for a drive, and see how it compares to this 30-year-older car. We are now in the 2020 Miata RF for retractable fastback. And even though this probably is the heaviest version with the mechanism for the retractable fastback, it is my favorite looking version of the car. It just looks really good with the targa, with the center section out. So, first immediate driving impression. It feels so similar to the NA. We do now have a telescopic steering wheel. We can move it up and down, in and out. That definitely helps because on the NA, you do not have that. On size, honestly, I feel, at least with this RF, I have slightly less headroom than I do in the soft top NA, and that kind of makes sense because we've got an insulated top. We're gonna have a lot less road noise with this. So it definitely makes sense that we have a little less room in this car. And I believe the seat's all the way down, all the way back. Now, one thing I definitely do notice is the power. We're in second gear, we're rolling on the throttle, and it feels considerably peppier than that car, which definitely makes sense. The car has 180 horsepower versus the 115 or so horsepower of the previous car. So that definitely makes sense. We're also greeted with modern day driving and safety conveniences, lane departure, all of that kind of stuff that you are used to seeing in modern day vehicles. But even though this does apparently have about 200 more pounds on the old NA, you definitely don't notice the weight because of the power. This is my first time driving a ND, and this specifically being an ND2 car with the 2-liter, bigger, higher power motor. And honestly, I'm really impressed. The clutch feels great. The shifter still feels nice and notchy, like I really like on that NA. And the power delivery is very smooth, very linear. We're getting ready to go through the twisty section here that we did previously in the NA, and honestly, you still have that pitchy, rolly feeling like you do in the older car, but it is a lot more composed. The steering feels nice and heavy, like it should. It doesn't feel light and loose like you'd expect in an electronic power steering car. But the power feels great. And of course, this car does have the modern day conveniences. We've got a screen for our radio and infotainment. We have automatic climate control. And one thing that I praise on that NA Miata is the downshifty, the rev match. And this car blips right into gear, right where it needs to be. They've really kept all of those awesome Miata things that the early cars have in this much nicer, newer, modern day convenience version of that car. And the extra power definitely helps. So we'll get back and kind of figure out what our final thoughts are on the two. Well guys, as you can tell from the drive, all of that original awesome NA Miata stuff is still carried over into the much newer, more modern ND Miata. All of the lightness, good handling, all of that stuff that you love about that original is carried over and kept with the much more modern new car. And you're getting a lot nicer area to be in with all of those modern day driving conveniences. Another benefit is this one has a warranty, so when it breaks, you get to bring it back to the dealership and have it repaired. So I wanted to give a big, massive shout out and thanks to Davis-Moore Mazda. They're our local Mazda dealership here in Wichita, Kansas. They were nice enough to throw me the keys to this 2020 RF Miata and let me take it out and see how it feels in comparison. So if you're in the market for this specific Miata, or any Mazda for that matter, definitely check out Davis-Moore Mazda. There'll be a link down in the description. Give them a call. They'll be able to get any of your Mazda service or sales needs taken care of. So, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.